Hey everyone, I'm Leslie. Welcome to my channel. Today I've got 3 different projects. This first project, I thrifted these angel wings it was like 2 for $5.99. But as you can see, they need a little updating. First thing I'm going to do is use my heat gun to heat up and loosen up the glue so I can get this lace stripped off of here. After I got the lace off, next I took off the hangers because they were kind of loose, wobbly. I figured I'd put some new ones on. So I'm just taking my air dry clay and filling up the putty holes. After looking at all my molds, I decided on Redesign's Angelic Aura for my castings, and I poured all these in resin. The reason I went with resin is because this is a very delicate mold, and you can do it with clay. That's not a problem, but I needed so many of them that the resin was the best way for me to go. I had this design kind of figured out ahead of time. I knew that I wanted these castings to kind of flow down the angel wings. So here I'm just going to figure out exactly how I want them laid out before I start gluing. And also, as you can see, the castings, as I had extra resin, I didn't want to waste it. So on the Angelica Aura mode, I did have some little rosebuds in there, and I went ahead and poured some of them. So now that I know how I want my castings laid out, I'm going to be taking Gorilla Glue and hot glue to kind of hold it in place as the glue dries. You can also take your heat gun and heat up the castings and help them bend and mold the way you want them to go. Now I'm going to take the little rosebuds and just fill them in places where I figured it needed a little bit more. I repeated the same process on the second wing, making sure I tried to get the castings the same design on both wings. Now I'm going to take DIY clay-based paint in the color Prom Queen, and I'm going to give the front and back 2 good coats. To me, the prom queen is such a beautiful French blue. And I want, under the milk paint, I want the blue to show through. Because I want these to have an old world French look. Once everything was completely dry, now I'm going to be taking sweet pickings in the color flour sack and mix up my milk paint. I want these wings to have an old chippy paint look. Milk paint is the best way to achieve that. Now I'm going to take a couple of scoops of powder with a couple of scoops of water. You use equal portions. I'll get my milk paint mixed up and I'm going to give it about 10 minutes to thicken up. Before I paint the front of the wings, I'm going to use my Sweet Pickins beeswax bar and I'm going to go around all the edges because that will create resist and help your milk paint to chip even more. The heat gun will help the milk paint to crackle even more. Now I'm going to put on a second coat and I'm going to put it on even thicker. Once my milk paint was completely dry, I took it out in the garage and gave it a good sanding, front and back. Now I'm going to be taking my Sweet Pickins oil wax in the color dark, and I'm going to go over the front and the back, and it will just sink into all those cracks and crevices and just really age it. Once the oil wax was complete and wiped back, I'm going to take my rub and buff in the color Gold Leaf, and I'm just going to use my finger and go all the way down the castings and give them a highlight. Okay, I wasn't sure where I wanted to hang these, and I didn't want to just put holes in my wall, so I just laid them on the floor to just show an example of what they're going to look like hung up. The first few pictures are just showing just the wings finished, and next I'm going to show how I'll hang it on the wall using a wreath and a vintage crown that I thrifted. If you don't have a vintage crown, there's so many things you can do. Make a wire crown with beads and rhinestones. You could do anything. Put a bird's nest in there with a pretty bird. So many things you can do. Find an angel statue to wire into the center of a wreath. Oh my gosh, there's so many things you can do. I absolutely love these. Now for project number 2. I thrifted this frame and it is so ornate and beautiful. It was already black, so all I did was take my DIY golden ticket liquid patina and I gave the frame 2 good coats. That golden ticket on top of the black gives this frame such an old world look. I absolutely love it. Next, I took a print that I just printed on my printer on regular just printer paper. I'm going to take a canvas board and I'm going to decoupage my Santa picture onto this board. I'm just going to be using Mod Podge that I get from Walmart for my decoupage medium. If you see a frame that is absolutely ornate and beautiful, but it doesn't have any backing, remember this trick. These are perfect for that. Don't pass up those frames because they don't have a back. Now I'm going to just ink the edges in case any of it kind of shows on the edge of the frame. I don't think it will, but this will help hide the edges. Now I'm going to seal the front of this just using the Mod Podge, but I use a pretty good amount, and I go in kind of a, as you can see, a crosshatch type motion, because when it dries I want it to have texture and look more like an oil painting. Now these are just some silver jingle bells. These are new that I bought at Hobby Lobby, but I want to make them look old. So first thing I'm going to do is give them a couple of coats of brown paint and let that dry. Now I'm going to be taking my Dixie Belle patina paint in the color bronze, and I'm going to be using both the blue and the green because I want these bells to have kind of that blue coppery patina like they get when they're really old. You put the first coat of the patina paint and let that dry. Then you're going to put the second coat, and while it's wet, that's when you apply your spray. Now I'm going to attach the jingle bells to the red velvet ribbon and attach it to my photo, and this is complete. Look how absolutely beautiful. I love these, and it's an easy project. Now for the third and final project, I have these wooden ornament rounds that I've had those a couple of years and never did anything with them. So I made some prints from the graphics fairy, and I've got two different prints here. One has a little cherub in the center and the other's a Santa. So there's 6 wooden rounds in there, and I'm just going to cut the ribbons off, and I'll use my own jute when these are complete. These make cute ornaments, of course, but they can also be used as gift tags. Just give them your own little personal touch. You can personalize them to the person they're going to. I'm going to be doing the 3 Santa ornaments in this color, Waverly chalk paint in the color moss. The 3 cherub ornaments, I'll be using the Waverly chalk paint in the color mineral. I'll give everything 2 good coats, front and back. Once my 2 coats of paint have completely dried, I'm going to be using Mod Podge as my decoupage medium. I used my IOD stamp set ephemeral type, and I chose these 2 different stamps for the back of the ornaments. I will be using this metallic paint. It's by Deco Art. It's called Elegant Finish, and it's in champagne gold, and I'll be using that to stamp the back of my ornaments. First thing I do is I try it on the paper to make sure it would be good with the stamps. I really love how it looked, so I went ahead with it. And it is really a beautiful color, and it doesn't really show on camera very much, but it's sparkly. It's really, really pretty. While the gold paint was drying, I got my Pentart Classic Crackle. It's a 2-part component, and I got it ready to go because I do want the front of these to have a crackled old world finish. So here I'm going to apply the component number 1. I gave component number 1 plenty of time to be dry, and it will still be kind of sticky to the touch. But here I'm going to go ahead and put component number 2, and I'm doing it kind of in a crosshatch type motion, not going in any one certain direction because I want the crackle to be random. Once everything was completely dry, I'm giving the back of all 6 ornaments a light sanding or just around the edges. I won't be sanding the front of the ornaments because you'll see in a few minutes I do something different with that. Next, I'm going to be taking my Paint Couture, and it's an antique and glaze, and at first I used the color light brown sugar, but it was too light and it didn't make the crackle show up as much. So here in a minute you'll see I switched to the color Van Dyke Brown. It's darker, and that's what I love. It really made everything show up so much better. As you can see, when I lay this ornament down next to the Santa, you can see the difference in color. I much prefer the darker color, so I go back over the Santa ornaments and darken them up. Now I'm going to be taking Paint Couture Luxe Metallic Paint in the color bronze. And I'm going to be painting the top of the ornament, the hanging part. And then I'm going to go around the edges and around the edge of the pictures. I end up doing 2 coats of the bronze. Now for the final touch, I'm going to be using my Pentart glitter pens. You know we got to give it some sparkle. Now I'm just going to add glitter to random places on the ornaments and just give certain little features glittery highlights. Once the glitter was dry, I attached my little jute string, and this project is complete. These make such cute ornaments, gift tags. I just love the way these turned out. This completes this video of 3 projects that I love the way they turned out. Let me know in the comments what is your favorite. Once again, I want to thank everyone for watching. And if you like this video, please consider hitting that thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel to help it grow. Thank you, everyone. See you next time. Bye.